voices. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to scare you away.
The talking in your head, that's part of the song?
Jesus Christ! Part of the music.
We can talk about it. So, well, Grandma, what did you think of Love and Mercy about Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys?
I was fascinated by the story. Of course, I was familiar with the music that they created in the 60s, and it was kind of a revelation to discover that one of the brothers was the musical genius. Brian was the one that knew how to, whatever was going on in his brain, he got it out and shared it with his brothers. The pictures, the depiction of him working with all the musicians and the ones that he hired,
Right.
because they were special in their field, and how much respect they all showed him, even when he was having the mental problems that were developing from all these voices in his head. It was quite well depicted, I think, by the movie makers. I understood, I think, that it was based mainly on his autobiography, so they didn't have to stray very far from the truth. In presenting his story, they had the pattern, and it was fascinating to watch that musical development, because as little as I know about music, it seemed quite clear, and the movie makers showed clearly that he really knew what he was doing, that he really was. At the end, when they ran the credits, they said he's now a recognized genius of the kind of music that they were creating. I remember the music, and I remember enjoying it very much. It was catchy. I guess that's the word. It drew you in. You enjoyed hearing it, and you couldn't sit still when they were performing. It was sad. I mean, this was the 60s, right?
Right. Well, 60s and
it was
later.
really sad, though, to see how manipulated he was by the supposed doctor who was treating him, because what he went through was so horrible. I mean, come on. It's hard enough to have some kind of mental problem, and obviously he had something going on. And then the depiction of his father. I mean, the father maintains he loves his sons, and then he treats them so horribly. The physical mistreatment when they were children was one thing, but the mental mistreatment when they were grown, particularly Brian, you'd have to ask Mr. Wilson himself, what was happening with this treatment. He didn't.
But again, the interesting thing is a couple of ways of looking at it. Again, in terms of Brian Wilson's own life, which is the more difficult part of his life, when he was again falling into this mental illness and his life was falling apart, or when he was again in a very bad situation, again battling to try to get out of it, and then the other way of looking at it is again, he had two different actors playing these two different times of his life, faced with completely different challenges in terms of being an actor and what they were trying to do and show in his life.
Well, and John Cusack later, he was showing the music was still in his head.
Mm-hmm.
It was still there. But he didn't know how to deal with it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how do I deal with this now? Am I totally crazy? And, you know,
Well, but
because
they both did. I mean, again,
Oh, I thought
different
they were
challenges, but
excellent.
they both did. It
Excellent.
was very much an actor's movie. Again,
excellent
the-
acting. Oh yeah,
they both did a great job. I
they
think.
they convinced me for sure.
Yeah. Again, it was very interesting to see this. I mean, I when Brian Wilson sort of came back out into the public spotlight, I remember hearing some of his story. But again, I
I
only
knew nothing about that.
well,
Nothing. So
I
this
only
was
knew
very interesting to me. Yeah.
I only knew a little bit of it.
Mhm.
I mean, this goes much deeper into what his problems were and what he was faced with. And again, it was a very difficult
I think
situation.
the movie makers did a really good job with guiding the two actors and how to show what was going on with this real person.
Mhm.
Like, this isn't an imaginary story. This isn't fiction.
Right.
This is what happened to a real person who had enormous amount of talent and created some beautiful music. Another thing I thought was interesting was showing how loyal his brothers were, even though he had gotten so terribly difficult to deal with,
Mhm.
even as brothers. You know, they were the performers. He was the music maker, the creator,
Mhm.
and they were the performers. He was the heart of the group,
Mhm.
and it showing that though their relationship to him, I thought was really special too.
And another interesting part of the movie wasn't the real focus of the movie was that I found interesting was the sort of the ups and downs of the Beach Boys as a group,
Mhm.
and about how they were, trying to stay relevant
Mhm.
when faced with competition from the Beatles and other groups, and interesting the creative choices that they were trying to make at the time to again compete and stay up there with other groups. It was,
I would recommend folks go to see it. It is an excellent film.
you would.
Yes, whether they are a Beach Boy fan or not, but it was very, very good film, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge Beach Boys fan. I mean, I enjoy their music just like you do, but the story itself is about the people.
Fascinating.
The music is not the main thing.
I loved it when they jumped off the yacht to escape the constant vigilance,
Mm-hmm.
being watched all the time,
Right.
does make you a little bit paranoid, The fake doctor, I have to call him fake, although he may have had his license at the time, called him paranoid schizophrenic. Well, yeah, the way he was treated would make anybody paranoid.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I loved it when they jumped off the yacht and swam into the beach house. I thought, okay, it's one of the perks of being very wealthy. See, you have a beach house at
Yeah.
Malibu that you can just go and swim to. That was
Probably
cool.
his yacht too that he jumped.
Oh
on.
yeah, obviously they had made a lot of money in the 70s.